A lot of people tend to miss what's going on with Cardano because it's not the big, flashy headlines. It's not what gets people out of bed in the morning. But what you need to know is that Cardano, on a fundamental level, from an organic level, is in fact growing. We are gaining traction. This is a great sign. And like I've talked about many times before, Cardano is taking the path less traveled. You don't see a lot of other ecosystems doing this. And this is where Cardano has a real opportunity to thrive and really boom later in this market cycle. I do want to talk about that, as well as this comment from a viewer actually comparing Cardano to Skechers, which I thought was kind of weird, but actually it kind of makes sense, but not in the way that they were implying. So if you guys are new or haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So we know that Cardano, or ADA itself, has done well from a price standpoint, and really its true potential hasn't even been tapped into yet. I think we can all acknowledge that the Cardano ecosystem has, lower amounts of daily active users compared to other chains, lower amounts of DEX volume, and that's because Cardano hasn't seen this retail boom. It's been slowly but surely growing. We're slowly but surely gaining traction. In fact, just a couple things from a fundamental level in terms of Cardano, we've actually seen Cardano's Treasury reach 1.75 billion ADA, so continuing to see growth there. And again, with us being a decentralized ecosystem, that can be used for marketing, it can be used for development, whatever we decide to vote on, right? And what we've also seen as well here is over 24,000 new Cardano wallets that have been created just in May alone. So we're slowly but surely gaining traction, and not necessarily at the rate that some people want, and that's okay. Because what we need to remember is that Cardano is in fact taking the path less traveled. It's focused on retail, right? But it's been more focused on gaining traction at a bigger level in terms of government, in terms of enterprise. And that actually made me want to talk about this comment that I thought was kind of strange. And what this said was, this is wild. ADA remains less than 1% of the crypto market cap since the start of the bear market up till now. I hold all three hype coins. ADA, Sol, XRP bought most of my ADA below 30 cents. We need to admit that Sol and XRP did it right in terms of marketing and gaining mass adoption. What business would want to build a project or build in a project that struggles? They wrote this wrong. What business would want to build a project that struggles to get customers? Absolutely no one. ADA is like the Skechers of the crypto game, has a small core following, but can never be more than that. And I think that this is just a horrible, horrible way to look at this, because businesses would actually want to build with Cardano. Governments would want to build with Cardano. That's why right now I would argue that Cardano is gaining the most traction in that regard. And the reason why is they didn't race to get to the retail scene. They actually built a sound product that, hasn't had downtime, hasn't had exploits, handles DDoS attacks. It doesn't have this congestion issue, is cheap. I mean, there's so many things. This is decentralized, right? These are the things that businesses would look for. For example, some of the other chains that you mentioned, and not to hate on these chains, right? Solana has had downtime and exploits. XRP just recently had some downtime, and it's downtime. And it's not to say that businesses wouldn't necessarily build with them, but when they're looking for the actual best solution, a functional solution, Cardano, they don't even compare to Cardano. It's not even a conversation. All right. And this isn't, me being biased. This isn't fanboyism or anything like that. But this is why there are, in fact, actual government and enterprise use cases in place when it comes to Cardano. I'm not going to go too much into them in this video because I don't want it to get too long. But that's where I think the huge disconnect lies. And we've basically been focused more on, getting integrated into world infrastructure rather than focusing on retail. And that is why there's been this divergence in chains. But the thing is it's much better to create a sound product and start targeting that route, because retail adoption follows, especially if you see businesses start adopting Cardano in use. It's not even a conversation, right? Look around the space at some of these other chains. Which of them actually has a major business utilizing their blockchain, not in namesake, but an actual use case? It's no one, right? That's where the big difference lies. It's much Cardano has taken the more difficult route, but it's the more sustainable route, if that makes sense. Now, the other part of this conversation that I thought was very bizarre was a comparison to Skechers. And it was basically saying that, it's basically the knockoff, like nobody cares about it, right? But I found something very interesting. And actually, this is a good comparison, because when we look at, something like like Nike, or we look at something like Adidas, since 2020, both of these have seen some modest growth. They're doing well, but what we're actually seeing is Skechers close the gap, because since 2020, Skechers has actually almost doubled in revenue. All right. Which of these other companies has doubled in revenue? Not Nike, not Adidas. So while there was, in fact, this retail traction initially for Adidas and Nike, you're actually seeing Skechers close the gap. All right. And I'm not trying to make a direct comparison between the two of them, but I think that that didn't quite have the same hit that this person was expecting. I would say that we are, in fact, more like Skechers. We're more like the early Amazon. We're here because we've taken the path less traveled, but we have the biggest opportunity for growth. We've seen ADA do some incredible things and Cardano do some incredible things before we've even had this retail boom within the ecosystem, right? A lot of what ADA price has been speculation about what it can do. And yes, you have in fact built a cult-like community. And why that is in fact important is if you have people that accumulate that are unwilling to dump their asset, you hit a supply shock, like we've talked about many times before. And what that means is, just think of if Cardano does get a major partnership or does have this big major retail boom, you could see ADA easily be one of the best performers in the crypto market in totality, right? Not even just amongst blue chips. And this isn't, financial advice or anything like that, but I think that's where some people, they lose sight of what actually is going on. They lose sight of how things are playing out. It's to perfection. We talk about this perfect timing time and time again, and it just continues to be perfect. All right. So that's just what I wanted to share with you guys. I appreciate it as always. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on this, but have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.